I'm Anthony Mason. Tonight, more strange twists in the case of the man quarantined with a dangerous strain of tuberculosis. The patient's now in Denver as the search continues for others who may have been exposed. And there's a new connection now to his father-in-law, who's a government expert on TB. A stark warning from a top U.S. general. He says the Iraq troop surge cannot succeed by September. Changing course, President Bush calls on wealthy nations to make plans for cutting greenhouse gases. Pill mills, a CBS News investigation into how prescription drugs are handed out illegally like they're candy.
Are you even a doctor, Dr. Hernandez?
And you may not know him, but you've probably gotten his emails. Tonight, the spam king is canned.
This is the CBS Evening News with Katie Couric.
Good evening. Katie is on assignment. The more we learn about the case of the traveler infected with a rare and dangerous form of tuberculosis, the stranger it becomes. Today, he arrived at an isolation unit in Denver. It turns out he's a personal injury lawyer. And in a bizarre twist, his father-in-law is a government scientist who happens to be an expert on TB. The case is also raising serious questions about how the U.S. might respond to an outbreak of infectious disease. We have two reports, beginning with Kelly Kobiea in Atlanta.
To most, Andrew Speaker is the man whose wedding plans sparked an international health incident. To those who know him, he's an outgoing and enthusiastic personal injury lawyer who followed his father into private practice.
He just seemed like an outgoing, friendly guy.
As it turns out, he is also the new son-in-law of a CDC microbiologist who studies tuberculosis. Bob Cooksey read a statement saying he was not involved in his son-in-law's travel decisions or his infection.
My son-in-law's TB did not originate from myself or the CDC labs.
Today, Speaker and his wife were flown to National Jewish Medical Center in Denver, one of only 4 hospitals in the country where XDR-TB, or extensively drug-resistant tuberculosis, is treated.
He is doing extremely well, is in very good spirits.
Speaker will stay in a room with specially designed ventilation to prevent germs from escaping. Doctors will try as many as 5 different antibiotics first, and if that doesn't work, surgery.
I'm very optimistic that we will be able to help him tremendously.
While Speaker settles into months of treatment in isolation, U.S. and international health officials are still tracking down airline passengers who might have been exposed.
Were you ever contacted by the CDC or Air France?
Absolutely
not yet. Neither one of you was.
No. And that's kind of the scary part.
Lainey Wiggins and Jason Vick were notified by their university this week. They were on a school-sponsored trip on a flight from Atlanta to Paris with Speaker. Both were tested. They get their results tomorrow.
What's next?
I'll be tested again in 8 weeks, and then if that one comes back negative as well, it'll be another 8 weeks.
We have to keep going back because we're on a plane with some selfish guy that just wasn't willing to give up his wedding.
The Department of Homeland Security confirmed today that Speaker's passport was swiped when he crossed back into the country from Canada. A message appeared saying that he should be detained and isolated. Authorities are now investigating why he wasn't, and the Border Patrol agent involved has been reassigned. Kelly Kobiea, CBS News, Atlanta.
I'm Nancy Cordes in Washington, where health experts say the confusion surrounding a single TB patient highlights how unprepared the nation is for an actual outbreak.
If we had a major epidemic of something that required enormous numbers of people being hospitalized in isolation conditions or who needed respirators, we would be in trouble very rapidly. We don't have enough room in our hospitals right now. We don't have enough trained people.
A recent study found that 25 states would run out of hospital beds within 2 weeks of even a moderate pandemic flu outbreak. And most hospitals don't have facilities like this, designed to keep infectious patients separate from everyone else. When a handful of patients infected with the respiratory disease SARS showed up at 4 Toronto hospitals in 2003, 800 other patients had to be quarantined. Here's what troubles infectious disease experts the most. If there were a fast-moving outbreak, there's no vaccine for SARS and no medicine designed to treat it. Same goes for West Nile virus. A vaccine for avian flu won't be available for years, and some patients are already developing a resistance to the antibiotics used to treat it. Why haven't more drugs been developed to fight diseases with the potential to kill thousands?
Pharmaceutical companies live to make a profit, and if antibiotics, for example, because they're used for usually 7 to 14 days, maybe as long as a month, can't generate the same kind of profits as a new cholesterol agent or the new Viagra, which a person might take for years.
And consider this, our quarantine system depends on infected patients voluntarily isolating themselves from the public. As this TB case showed, sometimes patients have other ideas. Nancy Cordes, CBS News, Washington.
In Iraq today, the U.S. military reported 3 more American soldiers were killed by roadside bombs. At least 123 Americans have died in May, making it the 3rd deadliest month of the war. At the White House, President Bush met with Iraq's president, both men expressing hope that Iraq could meet the benchmarks set by Congress for progress by September. But at the same time, U.S. military commanders are painting a much darker picture. David Martin reports from the Pentagon.
U.S. military officers tell CBS News the troop surge, which has now reached full strength, stands no chance of succeeding by September. That's the critical month General David Petraeus, the American commander in Iraq, is scheduled to report to Congress. Petraeus wants to deliver that report before the Muslim holy month of Ramadan begins on September 13th.
That's because Ramadan usually brings a spike in violence that would make it harder for Petraeus to claim even modest progress.
In a briefing from Baghdad, Lieutenant General Ray Odierno began lowering expectations by warning September may be too soon to judge whether the surge is having any effect at all.
It will take new units anywhere from 30 to 60 days to really get a feel for their sectors so they truly can have an impact on security and stability in their area.
Odierno said one encouraging sign is that some insurgents have shown interest in peace talks.
We're talking about ceasefires and maybe signing some things that say they won't conduct operations against the government of Iraq or against coalition forces.
But as American troops move into new parts of the country, they're suffering higher casualties as they run into deeply buried, impossible-to-see explosive devices, the infamous IEDs.
They're getting bigger and bigger. And it has a lot to do with because we were not in these areas, so it gave them time to make bigger IEDs and bury them.
By September, American commanders hope to show just enough progress to justify continuing the surge. But if you're looking for major changes in how the war is going, one officer said, it won't happen. David Martin, CBS News, the Pentagon.
Meanwhile, President Bush today called on industrialized nations to hold a climate summit this fall with an eye toward reducing emissions of greenhouse gases that are blamed for global warming. This marks a major change for the Bush administration. More now from our chief White House correspondent, Jim Axelrod.
While demonstrators and police are already battling, a week before the start of the G8 summit in Germany, President Bush was trying to head off critics of his policy on global warming by announcing he's ready to work with the rest of the world.
The United States will work with other nations to establish a new framework on greenhouse gas emissions for when the Kyoto Protocol expires in 2012.
The U.S. never signed onto Kyoto, the last international agreement on greenhouse gases, emissions from vehicles, power plants, and industry that trap heat in the atmosphere. So this is a new direction for Mr. Bush, who wants the world's largest greenhouse gas producers, including the U.S., China, and India, to meet this fall and set long-term goals for reducing global warming. The president has been at odds with many European leaders, rejecting their call to cut greenhouse gas emissions to 50% of 1990 levels by the year 2050. Today, those same leaders praised Mr. Bush.
And therefore, for the first time, we've got the opportunity of getting a proper global deal, because without America and China in this deal, then the rest of the world, frankly, can agree whatever it wants, but it's not going to have the effect of improving the environment.
Still, the Bush approach calls for voluntary international goals to reduce greenhouse gases, not binding commitments, and that troubles climate change experts.
Unless you have all the countries sitting down together and saying, here's what we're prepared to do, what are you prepared to do, and then working toward an agreement on a package of commitments, you're not going to get the critical mass of action that you need to reduce emissions.
Angela Merkel, the German chancellor and host of the G8, also had a positive reaction to the president today. Wherever this goes long term, short term, Mr. Bush has solved at least one problem, and that is no longer looking so isolated on climate change when he heads off to the G8 next week. Anthony?
Jim Axelrod, thanks. Another problem facing the Bush administration, deteriorating relations with Russia. Today, Russian President Putin accused the U.S. of starting another arms race. Putin defended Russia's 2 missile tests this week as a direct response to U.S. plans for a missile shield over Eastern Europe. The White House insists those plans pose no threat to Russia. There's more CBS News ahead. Coming up next, anyone with a computer hates to get spam emails. But tonight, the feds say the king of spam may have to log off permanently. There's a new sign tonight that the U.S. economy is slowing down. The Commerce Department's revised first quarter numbers show the economy grew by just 0.6%, the worst showing in more than 4 years. The sluggish housing market is partly to blame. At computer maker Dell, profits are up slightly, but apparently not enough. The company announced today it plans to cut 8,000 jobs over the next year. That represents 10% of Dell's global workforce. And if you own a computer, you know all about spam. It clogs up your email and slows everything down. Today, though, federal prosecutors announced one of the biggest spammers has been canned. Here's Bill Whitaker.
It's the bane of computer users' existence, that flood of spam, that unwanted junk email. Federal authorities say the arrest of this man, Robert Allen Soloway, might mean a lot less of it in your mailbox.
He is so prolific that our investigators dubbed him the Spam King, which is a moniker that has lasted.
Authorities say since 2003, Soloway has clogged millions of computers around the globe with billions of spam emails and charged him with 35 counts of fraud, identity theft, and money laundering. They say he'd claimed to be a legitimate internet marketer, get clients money and their computer ID, then use that ID to mass mail junk mail. Winnipeg travel agent Joseph Strebley got duped.
The only replies we got back were people complaining about spam. And then our servers were not up and running anymore. Our whole systems were blocked.
His scheme worked like this. Soloway would use his ill-gotten computer IDs and tap into a shadowy web creation called a botnet, a network of computers hijacked by hackers or criminals without the computer owner's knowledge. Using the botnet like a zombie army, Soloway sent out millions, even billions of junk mail a day that could never be traced back to him. Computer users around the world are rejoicing at his arrest.
It should be a major message to the spamming community that this type of activity just is not going to be tolerated.
Soloway faces up to 20 years in prison and the loss of more than $750,000 in profits. But in this computerized world, it's a sure bet other spammers are waiting to take his place. Bill Whitaker, CBS News, Los Angeles.
Meanwhile, with the weather warming up, results of the first ever crash test for convertibles came out today, and they highlight the importance of roll bars in saving lives. 10 2007 models were tested for the front, side, and rear protection they offer, and results show that even some of the less expensive models get high marks for safety. Coming up next, a CBS News investigation.
Why are you prescribing painkillers to people that go in there?
Confrontation at a pill mill. We expose so-called doctors dishing out dangerous prescription drugs by the thousands when we come back. Tonight, we're turning our attention to a growing problem, the abuse of prescription drugs. The federal government says nearly 6.4 million Americans have abused prescription medication, mostly painkillers. And the CDC says that's a major reason why in 2004 alone, almost 20,000 died of drug overdoses, an increase of nearly 80% in just 5 years. Contributing to the problem are pill mills, where rogue doctors write prescriptions for non-medical reasons. They're hard to uncover, but with hidden cameras rolling, we did. Here's CBS News Chief Investigative Correspondent Armin Katayan.
This Houston medical clinic is in the business of managing pain, but in reality, it's a front for a far more dangerous operation.
When I saw that for the first time, it shocked me.
This former employee who asked for anonymity says inside the clinic, prescriptions for dangerously addictive drugs like the painkiller Vicodin, the muscle relaxant Soma, and the anxiety drug Xanax are illegally handed out like candy.
The reality is a drug dealer.
Law enforcement sources estimate there may be tens of thousands of these so-called pill mills operating nationwide. To see for ourselves, we sent a healthy woman inside the clinic, posing as a new patient in pain, a hidden camera rolling.
Do you have medical records, MRI records?
No.
No? Can I see your ID, please?
Turns out we didn't need any records, just cash.
Our office visits are $80.
Once we pay, an attendant checks weight and blood pressure. Then it's time to meet the doctor.
I'm sorry, what is your name?
Manuel Hernandez.
Oh, you are the doctor here?
And then with my boss.
In violation of Texas law, there's no physical exam, no review of medical history. And watch how easily we get our drugs of choice.
Can I get a Vicodin or lower set? Lower set.
Lower set and Soma.
Yes.
You want that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thank you.
Is that the kind of stuff that you'd like to put an end to?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Joe Ranazizi is a top official at the Drug Enforcement Administration.
What they're doing is way outside the scope of medical practice.
And increasingly, it appears outside the reach of the DEA. Despite a recent rash of arrests, only 249 doctors have been arrested by the agency in the past 4 years.
These guys really are very, very good at staying under the radar.
Dr. Andrea Trescott is a leading pain specialist.
It is a huge societal problem. What they're causing are patients to get addicted and potentially die.
In all, we sent 4 people into the clinic. Same scenario. No exam, no records, same result.
You got the pharmacy pick up the medication. All right, thanks.
Our prescriptions were all faxed to a nearby pharmacy.
Thank you so much.
We ended up with hundreds of Vicodin, Xanax, and Soma. 720 pills total. Each and every one prescribed by this man, who we caught up with in the parking lot at the end of another very busy day.
Dr. Hernandez, I'm Armin Katayan from CBS News in New York. I'm doing a story about what's happening in this clinic right here.
Oh, I don't know.
Why are you prescribing painkillers to people that go in there?
Asking my boss.
No, you're the guy who's doing it. Why are you prescribing painkillers without a physical examination or without looking at anybody's records? Why is that? Are you even a doctor, Dr. Hernandez?
Fact is, Manuel Hernandez is not a licensed doctor. So how did we get all our pills? Against federal law, the clinic put them in the name of a doctor we never met and couldn't find. State records show the clinic was set up by still another doctor, Rodolfo Giraldi, who failed to respond to numerous requests for comment. But right after our first letter, the door was locked. His clinic closed for good, though there's nothing to keep him from opening at another location and going right back in to the drug business. Armin Katayan, CBS News, Houston.
And coming up next, he's the preacher to the presidents. Now, a new tribute to a modern-day crusader. Finally tonight, a touching tribute to the Reverend Billy Graham, someone who's had a huge impact on Christianity in America. In a recent Gallup poll, 43% of Americans described themselves as born again or evangelical. Many were inspired by the Billy Graham Crusades. And today, some prominent followers joined a pilgrimage in his hometown. From Charlotte, North Carolina, here's our national correspondent, Byron Pitts.
He's the light of the world.
At age 88, even Billy Graham admits he can no longer move the way he used to. But his kindness and his calling can still move men.
Billy Graham, the man, the preacher, the humble farmer's son who helped change the world, is a spiritual gift to all of us.
Today, 3 U.S. presidents, his family, and the faithful pay tribute to a dairy farmer's boy the gospel made famous, and grace keeps grounded.
I feel like I've been attending my own funeral.
This was the dedication service for the new Billy Graham Library, a building designed like a barn, filled with Graham's sermons and snapshots of a ministry that came of age with television.
We want this to be the message. The cross. The cross, yes, sir.
And to hear his son Franklin tell it, this library with a soaring 40-foot cross almost never happened.
For all of your father's fame, he was resistant to this library, yes? Well, if this was going to be a monument to him, he wanted no part in it. We want this library to be about the message.
God is giving you an opportunity. A message that spanned more than 60 years, 185 countries, 6 continents, and heard by an estimated 210 million people. He was once called God's machine gun, but here in his native Charlotte, North Carolina, he's just Billy.
This is a picture of Billy Graham,
where folks still remember the 6-year-old who occasionally goofed off in church.
One lady who's 87 and been a member of this church for 75 years tells about Billy rolling spitballs and throwing them at folks.
Billy Graham's come a long way. Byron Pitts, CBS News, Charlotte, North Carolina.
And that's the CBS Evening News. Katie Couric will be back tomorrow night anchoring from Washington. For now in New York, I'm Anthony Mason. Thanks for watching. Good night.
CBS News. See it now, anytime, anywhere.